You guys know the saying, if it's meant to be, then it's up to me. Well, it's actually, if it's meant to be, then it's up to we. My name is Nathan Bird, and this is my lovely wife, Lacey, and today we're going to be talking about bringing your partner into your overall vision for the future of your marriage.
Yes, it can be so easy to get focused in on your goals and dreams for your life, and all of a sudden you've built this entire future without even bringing your partner or spouse into it. And that's not a healthy relationship.
I can attest to that, and I know for a fact that building these secret things, and they're not secret in a bad way. It's just you have your own projects, you have your own vision for your life, and it's like, why don't you just invite the spouse that is now going to build that life with you and continue to develop that with somebody else that's along, for that vision.
Well, I think too, it can be really easy to set your own goals and know that, okay, I have control over whether or not this happens. We want to control everything. We want to set up our future. And hey, if our spouse comes along for the ride, great. But when you enroll them into your vision and you enroll them into your goals and you actually are open to their feedback and to letting them be a part. I know for, several years early into our marriage, there was like this constant butting of heads where I had my agenda, he had his agenda, and he also wanted to prove to the world, including me, that he could do all the things and be successful in this and that. And vice versa. Like it kind of created that in me where I wanted to just do my own thing and do my own goals because I knew that I could accomplish my goals. But then you bring in this other factor and maybe not as much. And when you really come together, and it is important to have your own individual goals, that is extremely important. Not everything you're doing together. So having your own identity and your own individual goals in a relationship, but being able to come to your partner and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what my goals are for the next year. I mean, especially right now, going into this new year, going into a new season, these are my goals. This is what I want, to happen. This is what I see for the future. What do you see? And having that conversation rather than just kind of having a chip on your shoulder, like, okay, I'm going to prove everybody wrong, and I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to get a great body. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to get promoted in my career. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And where is your partner in all of that? Are they part of that vision? Are they part of that dream? Or are they not?
Well, what happens is you'll start to place your agenda above the others, number one. And number two, you'll start to figure or find that that person is more of a burden
Mm,
and a weight.
yes.
And I believe that, as a couple, you're supposed to accentuate and to build up that other person and their skill sets. And that's where it's important for you to know exactly, who you are individually, but also respecting the fact that your spouse has significant knowledge to be able to share to you to help you along your own personal journey, which therefore also helps them.
Yeah. And this is a really important conversation to have. And it's something that we do actually pretty often. And it's kind of just natural conversation for us. We're constantly just talking about the future. What does that look like for you? What do you see, etc. But one thing that, has really worked is personally, I like to sit and get quiet and really look at what does my future look like? What are goals that I want to accomplish? What are things that have been on my heart? And not trying to keep up with the Joneses or the Kardashians or anybody else, but and look at, oh, that's a fancy car. I want that. I want that. I want that. Instead, you're looking at what are dreams and ambitions that I have. You only have one life, right? What are things that I want to accomplish and what are things that I want to do? And really putting those down. And what I do is I create a dream journal for myself, but putting those down and then coming together, and he has his own goals, and we come to and talk together and we look at what are you working on? What are your goals? Where do you see the future? What kind of things do you want to accomplish, and what do you want your life to look like? So we're having that conversation actively. And one thing we found is like not a lot of people actually do that. They don't
Mhm.
actively sit and dream. They're so stuck in just trying to keep their head above the water with where they're at. And they're not looking into the future. They're not dreaming. They're not building a life together. They're just surviving together, right? And they're both just trying to get back into the same boat. So, a few different questions I think it's really important to have and talk about with your partner. But I also want to preface, when you're doing this, don't go into it like, go into it with a good heart, right? I mean, there have definitely been times where he sits and starts telling me his goals and
Mm.
dreams, and I'm like, oh, really? Like, are you actually going to accomplish that? Really? Like, are you going to actually follow through on that? And I come in with a bad attitude. Don't do that. Like, have a heart to really understand how you want to see, how your partner wants to see their future. What does it look like to them? And don't get your feathers all, in a bunch if it looks different than yours. The whole idea here is to look at, what do you see in the future? What do I see? And then how can we paint that together to be something that fits for both of us?
I want to
And
touch on just something real
yeah.
quick that you said. It's important. Going into those conversations and not having these preconceived notions as to what they were,
Mm,
because you're always maturing as an individual. So, I could say to Lacey, hey, listen, I've got this amazing idea. I am going to follow through. I have the full plan listed. I know exactly. And then you say, yeah, right.
mhm.
Like before you hadn't done this, or that, but that was in the past. And you've got to know that each and every day your spouse is maturing, they're growing, and you've got to respect the fact and also listen and learn
Yeah.
where they're at.
And on that note, it's not your job to fix them if they're not maturing, right? It's not your job to coach them into that role and say, "Oh, you've never done that in the past. Why would you think that?" Like, that is just discouraging them from that growth process. We grow through experiences. And if you're discouraging your partner from actually stepping back into the game, when guarantee everything inside of their internal dialogue is already telling themselves, it's already made, they're already doubting themselves. So when you just add to that voice, you're just keeping them stuck where they're at. So if you really want that change and growth in your partner and in your life and in yourself, then encouraging them to continue to grow and to continue to build what they're doing is the best thing you can do, because like I said, it's not up to you to fix them or change them, and you can't. So furthermore, letting go of that burden that you have and letting them do what they're going to do.
And continuing to add to yourself in order to motivate the other, because it's about building yourself, building your talents, right, so you can be the lead in whatever you're doing.
Mm.
And I mean, I think that's extremely important. So what
So,
do you say?
so I think some basic questions that, they're very simple, but some questions that you can just, have a conversation with your spouse. First of all, I think it's important to take alone time individually and look at, what are my goals? You can't create your goals together because somebody is going to overshadow the other person. So, what are your goals individually? What is your partner's goals individually? And then coming together and having a healthy conversation of, hey, what does your future look like? What do you want to see your next year look like? 5 years? Like, what do you see in your future? What
Mhm.
are your values? What is the most important to you? Right? What are some changes that you're looking to make in your own life? And what are some areas that, you're really proud of, and areas of growth that you've had? That reflection is so important moving forward, because if you're constantly chasing but never reflecting on how far you've come, you're constantly going to feel discouraged. So being able to reflect as a unit and as a couple on, man, this is like how much I've grown, and we're constantly having those conversations, right? Like, hey, I just read a bunch of books rather than watching a bunch of TV. Like, great. you know,
Mhm.
Having those conversations of growth can really change the dialogue in the relationship and make all the difference in the quality of the relationship.
I mean, it comes down to a reflection and then course correction and then being able to do that together.
Yes.
So thank you so much for watching the video, guys. If you like it, please subscribe and also share it with somebody that really needs this. Once again, we look forward to seeing you on another video.